Hi, my name is Barry and this is the FinFloor Good to Great series. Today we're going to be exploring moisture assessment for your next installation. This is where we are going to take your installation from good to awesome. First, we go to assess where there is possibly excessive moisture, so let's get into being an investigator. When it comes to any job site, we want to make sure that even the darker areas, the shadowy areas, the areas that aren't getting as much airflow and sunlight, that those are the areas that are going to potentially hold on to their moisture, and these are the areas that we really need to keep an eye on. So I've got my trusty Tramex, and I'm checking the moisture, and here I'm sitting at 3.4. This is telling me that there's still a little bit of moisture here. It's definitely a lot damper in this area than it is in the main lounge area, which has a lot of airflow and sun coming in through the double sliding door. These are the areas to pay attention to. A key element of being a good investigator on site assessment is trying to see where the builder has done something out of the ordinary. So here we've got where there has been some extra chasing in. Obviously the island is getting some electrics and some plumbing. So we can see that the substrate over here is of a slightly different color. That means that something has been done. There's been a remedial. This is where we would again do a localized check to ascertain if the moisture there is correct. Here we can see it's a lot higher, it's 3.7. So if you're doing something like an LVT, this is where we would have to be a little bit more cognizant of how our primers and adhesives are working with the substrate moisture levels. This area is potentially a problem area. This is where our attention needs to be. When it comes to exterior windows and doors, whether it's a new renovation or it's an existing home, we can't always be sure that they've either been installed correctly or that the waterproofing is still intact. And because this is our link from the inside world to the outside world, we need to protect our product and create an environment and double check that it's an inside world condition. So low moisture, flat, dry, all the rest of it. So if there is a leak over here, we will get a higher moisture reading in this locale versus taking a reading further back, which will be a lot lower. So over here, we are sitting at maybe 3.8, 3.9. And also we would check the low element of the wall because it's an outside wall and inside wall. And here we can see also 3.9. Water will be sitting in these areas, and that's what we want to be double checking for. Floor is generally always going to be drier as it gets a little bit further into the middle of the room. These are critical elements that a competent site assessor or a floor installer will always check before he starts his installation. Showers and sculleries are notorious for leaking. So also, again, one of my favorite places to check is the back wall that's at the back of a shower or a scullery or a wet area. So in this room over here, we have a guest shower bathroom, and on the outside wall, I know that's going to be a key spot that I would personally be checking so that we make sure that there's no moisture coming through the floor and that we'll be able to attack our floor in the long term. Again, spidey sense, know your floors, know where their weakest links are. All right, once you've done your site assessment and you've done your couple of site visits and you know that your site is now in the right moisture content, it's like everything's where you need it to be, you need to document your moisture readings so that if there is any discrepancy at a later date, that you can go back and reference the correct moisture date and timestamp for your records and for your security. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the moisture. Here it's 1.8. Okay. I'm going to take my phone, have that ready. And I'm actually going to write the details on the floor and then take a photograph of it. So those details will be on the floor and underneath your new floor type, especially if it's like a floating floor, because all is good. If it's an LVT or a glue down floor, you want to make sure it's on the last layer before you install your floor. So if you're going to screed, you would check obviously post screeding that everything is correct before you glue down the floor. And then you take a photograph of your readings and that you also document the area that it is so that if there is a floor failure at a later date, you can just go directly to that area, uplift that little bit of floor, and come back to your readings, which still will be embedded in the substrate. This is because that when job sites start to fail, and it could be for a multitude of reasons and not the floor installer's fault, but you want to safeguard yourself so that you are not held liable, that fingers can't be pointed at your work. I'm also going to take a photograph to show context of where this little scene is taking place within context to the room. Because if I'm just taking my photograph straight down, that photograph could be taken anywhere. Now I've got the digital evidence, I also have the physical evidence. Every good installer should be doing this on every job site. And you want to be doing this in 3 or 4 different areas throughout your installation, making sure that there are some in the main area by the entry exit door of the floor, and then also in a darker area that is potentially in shadow. The final cherry on the cake is if you can get the site manager, the person who has commissioned the works, to actually sign your documented evidence in site at the 3 or 4 different zones, takes any question out of the conversation if there is a failure at a later date. Your responsibility is that you have correctly assessed the site and that you've installed the product correctly as per supplier's instructions. This takes the debate totally out of the conversation. Site assessment for moisture is absolutely critical. You need to understand the science, you need to have your spidey sense switched on in order to safeguard your work, your installation, and your customer's investment. We cannot stress this enough. If you found this video informative, you want to know more, hit us up in the comments, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next video.